What's going on, everybody? It's Julian from the Draft Lives here. And because I know everyone wants my opinion on the NFL draft that just concluded today, I'm going to go ahead and give all my grades for all these picks, going team by team, and yeah, just giving my feedback. I did watch pretty much every player that was drafted in some capacity. I know for a fact I did not watch the Patriots' fifth round corner out of, I think, Wake Forest, and we'll just get to that pick when it comes up. But we'll start off with the Cardinals. And some people might not enjoy what happened in this draft. I think it was a decent draft. Taking a running back at 3 is not going to help you this year, but next year and the rest of his rookie contract, there's going to be some positives that we'll see. But the fact that they ended up taking Carson Beck in the third also goes to show that they did want a quarterback. It was just a bad quarterback class. Chase Besantis is a very good guard. I think he'll immediately slide in and be parallel move to their current guard situation, but eventually be an upgrade. I really thought they would take a tackle earlier than the seventh round, but Jane Williams, he could compete for a backup spot. When it comes to Caleb Proctor, I think a fourth round pick for him is very good. I think teams wanted him in the third. You end up getting him at the top of the fourth. He's very good. He's got good pass rush chops. He dominated LSU on a D line that didn't have anyone else at Southeastern Louisiana. And Reggie Virgil, I actually had a higher grade on him than Douglas Virgil in the fourth, but he tested pretty poorly, so that's probably why he fell to the fifth. And then Carson Schrar is going to be a great special teamer, potentially slide in at linebacker if you're in a pinch. He's a decent player. So overall, I'm going to give this draft a B minus. Atlanta comes in with no first round pick due to the James Pierce trade. I will say that the trade for James Pierce kind of works out uh, outside of the legal issues he's been getting himself into. Seems like he's going to play this year, so that was a decent trade. He ended up getting Avion Terrell in the middle of the second, pairing him up with his brother. I really like Terrell. If healthy, he's one of the better corners in this class. I had a top 20 grade on him. And yeah, you get him in the second round. I think that's a great pick. Zachariah Branch in the third. I think it's what the Falcons needed. I didn't have a high grade on Branch. I didn't love him as a receiver, but based on what the Falcons need as a slot receiver that can give you a bit of yards after catch the screen passes. You already have Drake London. He's a dominant receiver. Kendall Daniels, I didn't really like. He didn't test well, and he's just fun. He's a big hitter. You get him in the fourth. That's not great value. Each team has their own mentality when it comes to fourth round picks. They might just be like, yeah, we need an elite special teamer that might be able to just come in on third downs and blitz. And you know what? You got it. Ontario Thompson, nothing special. It's going to be a backup developmental defensive lineman. They swapped Rook Aroro for Mason Smith with the Jaguars just for, so they could get fresh faces in new schemes. I think that's really going to be their defensive tackle. Ontario Thompson is just there for, the fun of it, to compete for a backup spot. Harold Perkins is a steal. This guy was a fourth round pick only because he's small, and he falls all the way to the sixth. That's very interesting. I get it, he's small, he doesn't have a specific role, he plays both edge and linebacker, but he's a good player. He's fast, he's athletic, and his freshman season at LSU, he was just dominant as an undersized edge rusher. This is great value here in the sixth. Ethan Onyawa uh, didn't really play much this year, transferred in from Rice. He's a guard, and again, once we're in the seventh round, you're taking backup linemen in case. You never want your backup linemen to play to begin with, especially when they're taken in the seventh round. But who knows? He might be good. You might see some flashes in the preseason. We'll see how that goes. I'm also going to give this draft a B minus. Baltimore Ravens, they had a lot of picks this draft. It's not even all on the screen right now. So we're going to just hop right into it. They definitely needed offensive linemen. And once their Max Crosby trade fell through, they kept their first round pick. So they went Venga Ioane. I really like this pick. He's a great guard. Unless you include Francis Maunoa, he was the best guard in the draft by far. And he goes at 14. That's very good value. And then you go to the second round, they get their edge rusher, they get Zion Young. But the problem with the Ravens is they haven't been able to develop their edge rushers. That's why they went out for Max Crosby. They didn't get it. They have Mike Green on the team. They had Odafe Owe. They had David Ajabo. They just don't know how to draft edge rushers in the second round. So as much as I like Zion Young, I don't know if he's going to pan out there just because they don't know how to develop edge rushers. But new regime, Harbaugh's no longer there. We'll see how that goes. Outside of that, it's a decent pick. I like the player. I like the fit. In the third, you go Jacoby Lane. He's kind of a one-trick pony. He's got enough athleticism and the size to catch balls over the middle of the field, maybe on post routes, in routes. But outside of that, he's pretty much just someone you throw it up to and hope he makes a fantastic catch. I think in the third, Could have got a better receiver or just gone something else. You know, they really need corner in my opinion, and they didn't really draft one high enough. But we'll get to Chandler Rivers after. And then Elijah Surratt in the fourth. This is where I really like it. Fourth round pick, kind of a steal in my opinion. He's just not athletic and also kind of a one trick pony, but way more versatile than Jacoby Lane. If you just switch these picks, I'm sure most people in their eyes would be satisfied with it, especially me. So we'll just pretend it's a wash. Switch those picks. We're satisfied. Matthew Hibner in the fourth. I actually liked Hibner. I just think he's not the best tight end. You lose Isaiah Likely. You have Mark Andrews, and this is who you go after. It's not really pushing the needle, but in the fourth round, it's not like that'll halt them from taking a top tight end next year. Now, Chandler Rivers in the fifth is a steal. He's a great player. He's just undersized, but it doesn't matter. This was a guy that could have went early round three, and you get him at the bottom of the fifth. A fantastic value. I even texted my friend who's a Ravens fan. Great value. Now we're taking another tight end here in the fifth round who I had a higher grade on than Hibner. I just don't know why you're going both tight ends. I know you lost Kolar and Likely. Both of these guys aren't the best blockers. I mean, Hibner's a decent blocker, but they're both. I like them both in the receiving game more than blocking game. But no complaints. It's the fifth round, and then still in the fifth round, a lot of fifth round picks. You go Adam Randall. I'm not the biggest fan of Randall's game. A former receiver that switched to running back, not something you see too often. He's a decent player, but when it comes down to it, you take him in the fifth with a lot better running backs on the board. It's not my favorite pick. But once we're in the fifth round, you know, he'll contribute right away on special teams and he can be an option out of the backfield. That's fine. We're in the fifth round. You're a decent team already. The Ravens have a good foundation. You're not scrounging for starters, must need starters, but I would have liked to see just a better, a more talented running back when there was some on the board. Then you go punter. You lost your punter in free agency, Jordan Stout to the Giants. So go get one of the watch punter tape. But I know Ryan Eckley is elite. MSU like pushes out elite special teamers year after year. Um, they did that with Bryce Behringer of the Patriots recently, and now you get Eckley. Good. And then here's the steal of the draft for the Ravens. Rayshon Benny in the seventh round. I had a fourth round grade on him. He's not great at pass rushing, and he's not the best run stopper. But I mean, this is a fourth round graded player. You have some things to work with. He's a decent run stopper. He's produced at Michigan. He's played a lot of defense, you know, and you get him in the seventh round. That's a great value pick. And then you have Evan Biernston. Uh, I mean, he's just not great. You get him in the seventh because he had a decent All Star circuit, tested decently. Again, you don't want your backup guards playing. This is just to fill out the roster. I'm gonna give this draft a B plus. No, I'm new to this, so I think I'm gonna start with the grades from now on. We're gonna go Bills C plus. Now, some people might not be happy that I gave the Bills a C plus. We're gonna get into it right now. T.J. Parker in the second after you trade down twice from the first. I don't mind it. You got good value back, enough to fill out your roster. I mean, the Bills are good mainly because of their play calling and the stars that they have, like Josh Allen, James Cook, an elite O line. Um, so it's okay. They could afford to go down, I guess, but they didn't need that many picks, especially in the middle rounds. They're a decent team. Whatever. Now you have only 4 years with TJ Parker, who I guess you hope is going to be elite. And I had a high grade on TJ Parker. I really liked him. I thought he could go in the first round. You get him at the top of the second. That's good value. Then it's still in the second round. At the end of the second round, you go Davison Igbinosun. That is a horrible pick. Not that he's a horrible player, but this is just way too high of a spot. He's a very physical corner, and he's pretty athletic for his size, but he's so penalty prone, and his film like isn't good outside of that. He cut down his penalties. He still allowed a lot of yards, and I didn't love his film. You get this here in the second round, not good value, but it's at a position of need, so I guess it cancels out, but there's way better players on the board. Then at the top of day three, you get Jude Bowery. This is a very good selection. One of the better tackles remaining at that point. And yeah, with the injury history of Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins playing physically and kind of getting older, it's good to get a swing tackle in the fourth round. I don't hate that at all. And then you get Skylar Bell. A lot of people like Skylar Bell. Very up and down opinions on him. He tested decently. He's just really skinny and doesn't have a great route package. One thing I hate about the Bills is they just go and get slot receivers. All the Bills have rostered is slot receivers. DJ Moore is a dynamic slot receiver. He's great. And then you have Khalil Shakir, who's a slot receiver. Now you have Skylar Bell, who's a slot receiver. They only have Keon Coleman on the outside, who's like that potentially X receiver, and they hate him, and he might be traded. So I don't understand this selection, but he's a good player, so I'm not going to knock it. And then you get Caleb Ellerms or decent player out of TCU, good linebacker, will produce on special teams right away. Just inconsistent in the run game and definitely not great in pass coverage. So when Bills fans especially complain about how bad their pass coverage is, um, and they blame that on McDermott, no, that's just you're just not you don't have good linebackers in pass coverage, and you continue not to fix that issue. But then they get their steal of the draft in Jalen Kilgore out of South Carolina. This guy, I had the Dolphins, I had my favorite team, the Dolphins, taking him in the third round. He falls all the way to the fifth. This is a hybrid nickel safety. Bro, his film was fantastic. I don't know why he fell to the fifth. Maybe he didn't test too well. I didn't really look into that. Or maybe he had an injury. Again, we don't know everything as fans. But based on what I know, he should have never fallen here. And this is a great pick for the Buffalo Bills. Exactly what they needed. He has a chance to contribute very early on. And then you get Zane Durant, very undersized D tackle, but enough to where you're like, yeah, if we put him in on third downs, there could be a time in his on his rookie contract where he's actually a contributor as a pass rusher. So I don't hate it here. And then 3 7th round picks, you actually get decent value. You get a corner, just throw a flyer out there. He might contribute on special teams. Toriano Pride's very undersized, but he had a lot of ball production at Missouri. And then you get your punter of the future, hopefully. Tommy Doman was pretty garbage this year as a Gators fan as well. He was pretty garbage, but he had good years at Michigan. So maybe that's why you take him in the seventh. And then Armaj Reed Adams, he's a veteran offensive lineman. He played for Texas A&M. He knows how to block for a scrambling QB. He's great on those QB draws. So that's, you take that in the seventh round, no complaints at all. But like I said, the top of this draft is where it really matters. You did get your steal in round five, but at the top, you didn't really impress me, and you didn't have enough picks to impress me. I'm going to give the Carolina Panthers a B minus. They really have invested it at offensive tackle, and they continue to with Monroe Freeling in the first. I don't love that. I mean, the Panthers are a decent team. I get it, protect Bryce Young, but right now you still have Moton. You signed Rasheed Walker, who's more than good enough to start, and they still have Aquanu. Unless Aquanu's planning on retiring or Moton, then you know what? I'll eat my words, but I don't love Freeling at 19. I didn't love Freeling to begin with, but good enough player at 19 to where I'm not knocking it, especially in this weird draft class. And then you go Lee Hunter in the second. This is a great run stopping defensive tackle, and I think he does have some potential as a pass rusher over the center, right inside the shoulder of a guard. So that's a pretty decent pick. Then you got Chris Brazell. I didn't love Brazell's tape. He's tall, and then there's always the fear of just falling into that Tennessee receiver scheme mindset where it's like, okay, all they can do is run fast, run straight, and drop the ball, kind of like Jalen Hyatt. So we'll see. In the third round, I think it's good value. There's probably teams that were like looking at him in the second and then just took their favorite receiver, their more ideal X stretch of field receiver. But in the third round is decent value. Will Lee. I mean, I'll say over a year ago, he was projected to be a second round pick. He's just not the most athletic and he's not consistent when the ball is in the air. His tracking ability is pretty garbage. So in the fourth round, that's a steal, honestly. He's a good player and you get him in the fourth. But the real steal of the draft for them was Sam Heck in the fifth round, and he's very good. The fact he fell to the fifth, I thought there was rumblings he could go early day two. I thought he could even slide into the first round to the Texans. That was a good fit for me. And he goes to the Panthers in round five. What a fantastic selection for them. He could probably be their center of the future. He's very good in open space on like screen passes, and he's got some good pass blocking chops. Then Zakee Wheatley here in the fifth. He's not athletic enough to play NFL safety, so he'll probably play in the box, but I don't think he's that strong either. Early special teams contributor, and when there's injuries, he's not the worst player in the world. Uh, you could slide him in. And then Jackson Kawach, very good special teamer. He had a good offseason circuit, so I'm sure that's why he was selected to begin with. But you're in the seventh round, you go get your special teamers. The Chicago Bears are up next. I'm going to give this draft a C plus. I don't feel like they attack their needs the way they should. In the first, you get Dylan Thieneman. I think that's very good value at a position of need. Then you get Logan Jones in the second. I think it's a very good player at a position of need, but you did have Bradbury. I think this is where you target edge rusher. They decide to skip on that. Cool. Now we're at the top of the third, and you go after a blocking tight end that some people had a high grade on. I did not like Sam Roush at all, and you get him at the top of the third. You have a way more pressing needs. I get Ben Johnson loves his blocking tight ends, but this was just not it. You know what I mean? This was not a need. This is not a pressing need, and this is not a great player at that selection. And then at the end of the third round, you get Xavier Thomas, who's a very electric receiver. And you did lose DJ Moore, so I'm not mad about it. We're in the third round. This is where you could get guys that'll play like 30% of snaps. I think there's just better players to get. I know Ben Johnson's an offensive genius, but again, when there's pressing needs on the defense, such as linebacker or edge rusher, you just got to go get it. And they didn't in the third round. But then at the top of the fourth, you do go get a corner. You did lose a few corners and DBs in free agency, and Malik Muhammad is pretty underrated. So the fourth round is a good selection, um, is a good spot for him and a good selection for the Bears. Fifth round, you finally attack linebacker in Keyshawn Elliott. I think he could have gone in the third round at the end of the third round. So it's swap him and Xavier Thomas, and it looks a bit better. But still, you have an attacked edge rusher, and then Jordan Vandenberg is their steal of the draft, probably round 6. Wasn't invited to the combine, but he's just been productive for Georgia Tech over the last few years. Overall, you didn't attack pressing needs except for safety, and you didn't get players that I really liked. Um, when you get Sam Roush in the third, it really does knock you down. It's just that's your tight end 3, and he's not great at tight end. So no edge rusher. I'm gonna have to knock it down to C plus. Here we go with the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, I'm not gonna incorporate their trade for Dexter Lawrence in their grade, but this is just not an. I haven't hit the great drafts yet. There was a lot of teams that had great drafts. I'm gonna give this one a B minus. I really did like the value of Cash Howell in the second. They really needed that pass rusher after losing Trey Hendrickson to the division rival Ravens. You get Tack Davis in the third when Ephesians Prysock, his teammate, who is better, is on the board. I don't love that. I get it. The height is very intriguing. Tack Davis is almost 6'5". He's had good year. He had a good year at Arizona a few years back, but just not the player that you want here in the third round. But then you get your steal of the draft and Connor Lew in the fourth. I had a top 50 grade. He was my 50th rated player. You get him in the fourth round at 128. Crazy value. I don't care if he has a torn ACL. He's going to recover from that, hopefully. And I'm sure if he was drafted to begin with, that means his medicals were good enough that, yeah, he might not start week 1, but this is your center of the future you get in the fourth round. Fantastic value. But then Kobe Young is a reach. You don't need receiver. I understand getting a backup receiver, but you don't need receiver, and you get Kobe Young. This is pretty much just insurance if T. Higgins gets hurt, which I don't hate, but there are more pressing needs, especially along the offensive line or in the backfield. And then you just go Kobe Young in the fourth. Not my favorite pick. Then you get another center. Brian Parker has versatility across all 5 spots on the offensive line, so I don't mind it, but he really does lack play strength, especially if you're going to play him on the interior. So sure, in the sixth, it's good value, but again, we're still not attacking certain needs. Jack Andrews, this is great value actually, but I don't love him either. You get him in the seventh though, very good value, and then a fan favorite, and this was a great tribute to the late great Pat Tillman, Landon Robinson out of Navy, out of the Naval Academy. In the 7th round, he's got a lot of pass. He's got juice, man. He's fast. He's athletic. He's just undersized for a defensive tackle. So I wouldn't even be shocked if they played him at 3-4 end. You can line him up over a tackle to stop the run because he's 290 pounds. He's got a good anchor, no pun intended. So they're not a bad draft. The B minus is what I give the Bengals. Welcome to the Cleveland Browns experience. I'm going to give this draft an A minus. They had a lot of picks, and they did a lot of good things with those picks. We'll go Spencer Fano right away at 9 after a trade down with the Chiefs. I don't love Spencer Fano as a player, but at 9 is good value, especially when you need everything across the offensive line. So you get Fano at 9, good. And then Conception. People hated Conception, Casey Conception, receiver out of Texas A&M. You hate him at 24? I don't. I had a 43rd graded. He was my 43rd overall player, but you need a receiver. You need someone that can stretch the field, catch underneath passes, because Jerry Jeudy's not doing that for you. And sure, you have Isaiah Bond and Malachi Corley, but these are not cornerstone franchise players. So you needed Casey Conception, good pick, and then you needed another receiver. You double up on receiver right away. Denzel Boston was my 12th ranked player in the entire draft. I love Denzel Boston. You get him at the top of the second. Great value. Great player. That is your real X receiver. And then you have Casey Conception, Takashi underneath, stretch the field with his speed and just his quick burst. And then you get another guy that I had highly ranked in Emmanuel McNeil Warren in the second. This is an elite first 4 picks, I'm going to be honest. Then in the third, you kind of reach on a tackle, but you still need your swing tackle. You still need someone that could potentially start when guys hit free agency. Austin Barber might start for them early. Who knows? He's not a bad player. I just think the third is a bit rich. And then you get Parker Brailsford, a center, in the fifth. He's been up and down. He's pretty inconsistent when he was at Washington and Alabama. He kind of fits that scheme where it's like, okay, we're gonna have the QB on the move. So if they plan on having Deshaun Watson or Shadur on the move, I'm sure Parker Brailsford can be fine and not look out of place. Maybe as a rookie, we'll see. Then Justin Jefferson, not the receiver, the linebacker in the fifth round. He's kind of a thumper in the run game. He's horrible in coverage, and he'll contribute on special teams early, but that's kind of what you aim for in the fifth. And then they get Joe Royer. This is a receiving tight end. Yeah, Harold Fannon's going to be your guy, but we saw how much they ran two tight end sets last year, and their new head coach comes from the Ravens, who ran a lot of two tight end sets. So go ahead, get Joe Royer at the end of the fifth. Great value. And then this is an intriguing one. You get Taylon Green. I'm sure teams just didn't even have him on their board. They probably had him as a receiver or tight end on their board. The Browns, they're not scared to take risks. They went with Dylan Gabriel and Shadur last year. Now they're going Taylon Green this year. Is he better than Dylan Gabriel? I'll say definitely. Is he better than Shadur Sanders? No, but he's more athletic, so they might. If they decide to go with Deshaun Watson as their starter, I wouldn't be shocked to see Taylon Green as the backup and then um, trade Shadur Sanders and maybe Dylan Gabriel. We'll see what they decide to do. I get it, it's the sixth round pick, but still, the fact that they took him, you don't want to just go and cut your sixth round pick. That's horrible managing. If you're the GM, that's horrible managing. You don't do that. So I think they drafted him to be on the roster this year. We'll see. And then you get Carson Ryan at the end of this seventh round. This is a guy that if he sticks on the roster, it'll be special teams. At the change, I have a job, unfortunately. All right, so now we're on to the Cowboys. I'm going to give this draft a B. I mean, it's pretty solid. Caleb Downs is great value at 11. Malachi Lawrence, I knew he was going to sneak into the first round. I think 23 is a bit rich. Very good pass rusher, though. A lot of juice off the edge. Then they go another juiced up linebacker edge hybrid. They really want to replace Micah Parsons, clearly. I think you have some other pressing needs, especially that you don't have George Pickens extended. You kind of need you need other things other than double up on edge, and then we'll see after. As you can see, LT Overton, they go nice three tech slash edge rusher again in round four. But before that, they get Drew Shelton. Drew Shelton is why he's pretty bad in my opinion. I had a seventh round grade on him. You reach on him in the fourth, that's not great. But Devin Moore is great value when healthy. A 6'3" corner that projects to be a good slot defender and can even play on the outside. That's pretty good. And then you get Anthony Smith. I had a fifth round grade on him. He's a sleeper. He's got a lot of speed and good size at 6'3". I think that in the seventh round is a steal. Overall, with the steals in the first round and in the seventh round, I'll give this a B grade. I'm going to give the Denver Broncos a B minus. It's a weird draft. Again, not incorporating a first round pick for Jalen Waddle. They also gave away a third. It wasn't a great draft. I also didn't love that trade for them. I didn't value Waddle in the first round. From the second to the top of the third, you grab Tyler Onyedin. I think the need was there at defensive tackle, but the value is not great for Onyedin. Solid player. He could drop his weight. He can anchor decently well, but he's got no really no pass rush chops. And you go grab Jonah Coleman. That's the best pick by far in this draft. I had a top 50 grade on Jonah Coleman, but I don't love the fact you're going running back again. You have RJ Harvey. You extended J.K. Dobbins. Why are you going Jonah Coleman? He's very powerful, and I love the player. I just don't understand the fit or how often they'd use him. I get everyone needs multiple running backs, but for Jonah Coleman, it's just a weird spot. Cage Casey, I like as a potential swing tackle backup guard for them. And then Justin Joly in the fifth. I thought he could have gone in the third round. It wouldn't have been the worst. I had a fourth round grade on him, so that's pretty good. Miles Scott, Dallin Bentley, and then Red Murdoch is Mr. Irrelevant this year. I think the best of those is Red Murdoch, immediate special teams contributor. Outside of that, it's a decent class, but no high end picks, and only one high end player that you already have good players at that position, so B minus. I hate to just be boring over and over again, but I'm gonna have to give this draft a B. You get a really good tackle in Blake Miller in the first round. 17 is a bit of a reach, but tackles are a premier position, so it's okay if you reach. Derek Moore is a good edge rusher, undersized, but keep him in Michigan. You really needed an edge rusher. Then you reach on Jimmy Rolder at a sixth round grade on him. Immediate special teams impact, but he does have a lot of power in the run game. But again, outside of that, they're getting personality guys, the people that'll fit their mental scheme with Dan Campbell and biting kneecaps. Keith Abney in the fifth, just because he's an undersized outside corner who's also not physical, so you don't really project him in the slot. That's why he fell. That's very good value in the fifth. He's a very good player. Kendrick Law, you just hope on the upside there. He's got his hands are iffy, but good athletic tools, and you get that in the fifth. Not the end of the world. And then Skylar Gill Howard, undersized D tackle, but a lot of good pass rush chops and very good run stopping tape just based on timing and leverage. I don't think he'll succeed at the NFL level right away, but in the sixth round, this is someone that could stick on a roster for a long time. And then Tyree West, same thing with him. Honestly, he's an oversized edge rusher in that Tennessee scheme. Kick him inside to a 3-4 DN, and we could see what he could do early on. The Packers are going to get a C plus here. I didn't love Cisse to them. I know they really needed a corner badly, and they didn't have a first round pick. So you grab a corner, then you reach on Chris McClellan. There was some hype gathering around him late in the process. I didn't love him, and I don't love this pick. But then denied Dennis Sutton, I had a very high grade on him. He was in my top 50. I really liked him. He's not twitchy, but he's got good hands in the run game, and also very good hand placement, able to swipe away, decent inside rush move. You get him in the fourth, very good value. But I feel like that edge room is kind of getting overcrowded, even though you traded away Rashawn Gary. He wasn't really doing anything for you. But I hope tonight Dennis Sutton could get in some rotation reps early. He's a good player in the fourth, and then Yager Burton in the fifth, decent player. The Packers love their offensive linemen. I mean, and they get Burton, who's he's been starting at Kentucky, so I don't hate the pick. Again, there's just not a lot of what I would have wanted to see from the Packers here. There's just more to be desired. I would like to see another corner, potentially a safety, and definitely a linebacker after losing Quay Walker to free agency. But they go Damani Jackson, who's got a lot of athleticism and was a very high recruit to USC and Alabama. You just hope on the upside there. And then he was also a Shrine Bowl guy alongside Trace Mack, who's a very good kicker, and they've had kicker problems. So I don't mind it. But again, just I don't love their first two picks, which is where the value is really supposed to be C plus for them. I'm gonna be honest, I really don't know how to grade this Texans draft correctly because there's some highs and then some real lows. So I'm gonna land on B. Maybe that's boring, but they get Keelan Rutledge. I really liked Rutledge. I had a high third round grade on him. He was one of my top guards, but taking him in the first is just a bit of a reach. He's a good player. He's gonna have a nice anchor in the pass game. He's got some good chops in the run game, but just not better than some other players at the position in this class. But then they get my 13th overall ranked player in Caden McDonald. I love Caden McDonald. No idea how he fell out of the first round. That's an insane value pick, and they needed it too. I thought they could have went D tackle early on, like Caleb Banks or something at 26. Um, but you know what? Good for them. They get Caden McDonald. He's a steal and a half in the second round. Then they go for Marlon Klein. They have decent tight ends, and there are way better tight ends in this class. There was a weird run on tight ends. I think I already said that. There's a weird run on tight ends that happened. I don't understand Marlon Klein at all. I liked him. Maybe in the fifth round. Second round is crazy. And then Fabechi Nuewu. He's a decent player. I graded him in the sixth, and you're taking him in the fourth. Again, I get the need at guard. Here, I probably would have went like tackle or something, or just depth at corner in the fourth. But you know what? Depth at guard's not the worst thing in the world, especially with how thin their offensive line has been. And Wyatt Teller isn't there. He's not going to be there forever. It's a 2-year deal with a 1-year structure. Then you get Wade Woodaz. I feel like he's been slept on, and you get him right away. He's got decent athleticism, and early special teams contributions matter. Get that in the fourth, that's not bad. And then you get a steal in Kamari Ramsey. Kamari Ramsey in the fifth is one of the steals of the draft. I had a second round grade on him, my 33rd overall ranked player. I get it, he can't stop the run. Just put him in the nickel or deep safety in pass downs. Like, it doesn't matter. You get him in the fifth, fantastic value. That's a A plus plus pick. But then Lewis Bond, whatever, a backup receiver, that's fine in the sixth. And then Aiden Fisher is also a steal. But the fact that your first round pick I don't love, and one of your seconds is pretty horrible, I just don't know how to grade this draft. B, pushing B plus, I guess, but some of these picks are just L's across the board. But I said B, and the Texans are already a good team, so it's not a detriment to society. B is my grade. For the Colts, I'm gonna go A minus. This was a very good draft, especially for not having a first round pick. With how they botched the end of their season last year and whatever they were doing with trading for Sauce, I didn't love that. If that's part of this, that A minus is going down. But you get C.J. Allen in the second. A lot of people thought he could go in the first. This is the middle of the second as well. C.J. Allen's great value. A.J. Halsey in the third is great value at a hard hitting safety. He is probably an upgrade on Nick Cross right away. Jalen Farmer in the fourth, slide in at starting guard for a lot of teams. I thought my Dolphins could take him in the third round, and I would have been satisfied with it. They had a need at guard, and Colts took him in the fourth. That's very good. Bryce Betcher, decent player, very good baseball player. His highlights consist of, decent batted balls and then a hard hit, and he also mowed someone down in the Senior Bowl and got punched for it. So Hopefully that doesn't happen in the NFL. And then George Gums, I mean that he's just an athlete. You take him in the it's a flyer in the fifth. You hope he could potentially develop into something. That's the only thing I would have liked to seen Edge go earlier. But again, once you lose your first round pick, everything is pushed down one. So I would have also liked to see the receiver gone earlier. But they double up at edge with Caden Curry, who I think is really good. He's got small arms and not great athleticism, but reminds me a lot of Jack Sawyer, who I loved from last year, and he did have a lot of production at Ohio State, so good pick there. And then back-to-back Seth McGowan and Deion Burks is very good value. Seth McGowan has off-field issues. He doesn't have great athleticism. He's a straight line runner with a powerful truck move. And then Deion Burks, I had a high grade on Deion Burks. This guy was a fourth rounder for me. If he went in the third, I wouldn't have been mad. Undersized with a lot of juice and strong hands, you know. Uh, I don't know why he fell. Maybe there was a story and I didn't see it, but at the end of the seventh round, this is a supreme pick. I think he can contribute pretty early for the Colts here. Like I said, A minus draft, good for them. They really recovered from sending their first off to an injured corner. I don't know if this is fair. I'm gonna give this draft a D minus. This was horrendous. I get it. I'm not an NFL GM. I'm over here LARPing on YouTube to 100 subscribers, but this was disgusting. You get Borkircher as your first pick. I think it's even pronounced Borkircher. Whatever. That's your first pick of the draft after sending your first away to Travis Hunter. I know I'm not including trades, but I hated that trade last year. You turn around and get a blocking tight end who I graded, but I didn't. You know, because there's nothing to grade except for his run blocking. He has 200 receiving yards and like 400 in 5 years. This was a gross pick. I don't care that I'm not a GM. This makes no sense. And you would think, you know, I mean, the Jags already took Josh Oliver, who was a blocking tight end like 5, 6 years ago in the second round, but this guy doesn't even compare to what Josh Oliver was. Weird pick. But you know what? Swing and a miss there. Then you go third round. Albert Regis. I don't mind him. Early in the third, I mean, just doesn't make much sense. You did need D tackle. There's way better D tackles on the board. You reach on Regis. Cool. Next, this is the only good one, in my opinion, is Emmanuel Pregnon. This is an A plus pick. Probably the best, one of the best guards in the class. Obviously, you had Venga Ioane and anyone you wanted to project going from tackle to guard. Good for Pregnon. Slid to the third. Could probably start for them early on. Good player. Then you reach on Jalen Husky. Hybrid nickel overhang safety. Decent highlights. Decent athleticism. Like I had a sixth round grade on him. And then Wesley Williams. I actually like Wesley Williams. He was like impressive in the offseason circuit, but I think his teammate in Vincent Anthony was better. So you grab him in the fourth. That's interesting. Tanner Kojal, not bad in the fifth. This is an actual receiving tight end. You don't play him in line. He's like a Mike Gesicki pro comp. That I don't mind. Josh Cameron, I think you could have went receiver earlier. I also think you could have went corner earlier, but whatever. They grabbed Josh Cameron and then C.J. Williams back to back. Those are some real productive receivers at the college level. But I mean, now we're heading into like steal territory. These are like decent players in the sixth, and then seventh you get like whatever an edge rusher and a linebacker. I promise you, I didn't watch Parker Hughes out of Middle Tennessee. I didn't watch him, so I'm not even gonna comment on him. But this draft was just gross. D minus, dude. Jags, just hire me, bro. Like, what are we doing? That is a gross draft. D minus. Not to mention, I don't even think any of these guys are like day one contributors. Maybe Regis gets in the rotation early, but they just traded for Ruka Roro, and then Emmanuel Pregnon could be a starter early on. Again, no contributors, not even your second round pick. No. A nice breath of fresh air after that horrendous draft from the Jags. We get an A minus from the Kansas City Chiefs. Trade up a few spots so you can snag Delane from the Commanders. I didn't have Delane in my top 10, but very good player. And at 6, it's a need. I don't love the idea that they just lost all their corners just to replace them through the draft. But again, what happens in the offseason, you must just replace in the draft. So I'm not grading your offseason, I'm grading your draft. That's a good pick. Peter Woods, I did not like Peter Woods, but I liked him enough that, yeah, between picks 30 and 40, good value. You get him at 29. I enjoy that. And you have a fifth-year option on a potential D tackle that could pop off. You know, this could be a very good player, boomer bust type, in my opinion. And then R. Mason Thomas, undersized edge rusher, not a lot of production, but a good player. And you get him at the top of the second round. A lot of people thought he could sneak into the first, including me. I thought he was going to go. I think the Dolphins might have been interested in him at their pick in the second round, but he got taken earlier. So So that's a decent pick at a position of need. And then you go Jaden Kennedy. He was one of I had him graded as a safety. I thought he could move back there and play a little bit of overhang as well. That's what he's a nickel defender. I just graded him as a safety. And you grab him. So yeah, he's going to slide in, probably be your starting nickel this year, I assume. He's going to compete with Cater Kohu for the nickel. And then a third round grade on Emmett Johnson. You get him in the fifth. That's an immediate backup running back that'll contribute early on. We all know how bad the running backs have been, but getting him, comparing him with Kenneth Walker, very good backfield right now. And then Cyrus Allen in the fifth. That's great. I had a fifth round grade on him, but I think the speed that he has, the acceleration, and just his ability, he was great this year. I think he had like 13 touchdowns or something crazy. Very good player. You get him in the fifth, slides in. He's probably gonna be the receiver four, compete with Jalen Royals for that spot. And then you get G Nuss, Nussbus, Garrett Nussmeyer. The fall was weird, medical issues, and bad play. I had a sixth round grade on him. I'm not gonna pretend. I'm not gonna pretend that I enjoyed his film. I had a sixth round grade on Garrett Nussmeyer, but I did see the potential. You know, when you grade the potential, I'd be like, you know, if someone took him in the fifth, I don't hate it. Slides all the way to the end of the seventh. Right now, your quarterback room is Justin Fields and obviously Patrick Mahomes, but Justin Fields is a really big question mark. Can he even play NFL QB? They believe so, but if he slides in for Mahomes while he's still injured and sucks, then you know maybe you have a long-term backup in Garrett Nussmeyer. He's going to be healthy for the preseason, I hope, and I hope he proves me wrong and balls out. And it's good value in the seventh round. Good draft for the Chiefs. They repaired a few holes that they had. I don't know if they're going to be back to the Super Bowl this year, but it's a start. The Las Vegas Raiders get a B plus. Some people are very high on this draft. I don't mind it. Fernando Mendoza at one. I mean, you get the one of one. We all knew he was going to be there, and we all knew he was going to be the pick. So it's a good pick. You get your quarterback of the future. Very good. Trayton Stukes. He's an older nickel defender. I don't love that pick. I don't mind it though. They definitely needed defensive backs. So you snag him in the second. Cool. Then you snag an edge rusher to replace Tyree Wilson. They traded Tyree Wilson for a fifth round pick to the Saints. Pretty much his replacement is found in the third, Kieran Crawford. Very underrated. Very good pass rusher and decent amount of run stops, but he was really, he had good performances this year at the Senior Bowl and he's athletic. I like his upside. You get Trey Zune. They announced him as a center, which is weird. He's probably going to play guard, I assume, but he has tackle, guard, and center experience. So pair him up with all that versatility on the O line. You already have Jackson Powers Johnson at guard, Tyler Linderbaum at center. So cool. Trey Zune in the third, very good value. And then probably I'll say the steal of the draft. Every team has their own steal, but the steal of the draft is Jermod McCoy in the fourth. I don't care. Even if he missed his entire rookie year, I'm taking him in the second. You know, he was a top 20 player for me. You take him in the second. That I don't get it. Unless his career was guaranteed done after like a year, which it isn't. Uh, the fourth round is fantastic value. Then they get Mike Washington. You know what? For someone that thought Mike Washington would go high and didn't have a high grade on him, which is me, I like him in the fourth. Very good player, a lot of juice, but fumbling problems. So he doesn't have to play right away. Let him learn how to carry the football. Let him learn to get better vision at the second level because Genty's your starter. And you know what? He might make a big impact in the receiving game early on. And then you get Dalton Johnson and Hezekiah Masses. I don't really love Dalton Johnson. He was the non-impressive Arizona DB the last few years. You know, you get him in the fifth, early special teamer. But Hezekiah Masses is just a ball hawk. You know, he had a really good year for Cal, transferred him from Florida International. I really like him here in the fifth. I think he might make an impact early on if McCoy can't go due to injury. Masses might be that guy. And then in the sixth, you get Malik Benson, very speedy receiver out of Oregon. I like it. You know, it's just more speed on that offense. I would have wished they went receiver earlier because that's a bad receiver room. But in the sixth, you know, at least he'll be able to make the roster and hopefully he has an impact early on. Brandon Cleveland in the seventh round, steal of the draft. This guy follows me on Twitter. He's a great dude. And yeah, in the seventh, very good player. Actually, I thought that he went undrafted for a second. I missed. This was the only pick I missed the entire draft. I'm glad to see he got picked. A very good player. And they had a need at defensive tackle. That's something that they also could have went earlier, but they get him, and hopefully he can make an impact early on. Chargers are going to get a C plus here. I didn't love this draft. So you got Akeem Mesidor, an older, injury-prone edge rusher in the first round. I know they needed edge. I know they needed this prototype at edge, this type of player. So I don't mind it too much, but not great. You go ahead and get a center in the second round. I had a third on Jake Slaughter. You get him at the end of the second. Cool, good player. Go Gators, but I just don't love the anchor, especially when Bradley Bozeman had issues with his hands. You're putting a rookie in a tough situation with the rest of that battle line. No third round pick. Then they got Brendan Thompson, very speedy, shifty receiver, but you have that in Lad McConkey. He's your slot guy. So this is just a backup slot receiver who could maybe contribute on kick returns early. This is just a Mike McDaniel pick in the fourth round, which is cool. But man, we got really pressing needs here, Chargers fans. We got pressing needs. We got guard. We need more talent at corner because these guys won't like the steals you had a few years ago aren't gonna last forever. Whatever. Then you know what? I really like Travis Burke. I had a fourth round grade on him. You get him in the fourth. He could plug and play at tackle. I think early on, he made a close to seamless transition from left tackle to right tackle. Good experienced player, and he's giant, just like Joe Alt. So yeah, if there's any injuries there, I like Travis Burke to slide in. Genesis Smith. Uh, Another reason he fell is kind of like Kamari Ramsey, but I like Kamari Ramsey way better. So the fact they took Smith over Ramsey is questionable. Decent coverage guy, long, athletic, but can't tackle for anything and can't stop the run. Nick Barrett, I had a seventh round grade on him. You get a D tackle, cool. Logan Taylor is probably their little steal. I think he's a decent player. You slide in at guard, worst case, due to injury, but they really don't have any guards. So maybe they're planning on starting him, which isn't the worst idea. He could have went in the fourth round. You get him in the sixth, decent. Alex Harkey is not great. They announced him as a guard. He played tackle at Oregon, which good because he can't play tackle at the NFL level, but whatever. You know, backup guard, you never want your backup guards to play. I just didn't love this draft. C plus. The LA Rams get a D. Not a great draft. I don't mind Ty Simpson, seemingly like McVay does. I think could be the QB of the future, but you really have to be sure that Stafford is playing 1-2 years max, and you gotta hope that he's not bad or the team's not bad. That you're getting a high pick and you could just take a better prospect than Simpson. It's also going to create turmoil because I'm sure Matthew Stafford doesn't want to retire or like doesn't want his replacement in the building. That's weird. You have a Super Bowl window. Go get someone that'll help you. Whatever. Moving on. Second round, they grab Max Clare. I had a fourth round grade on Clare. And even if you like him, that tight end's not your pressing need right now, especially with what's going on with Puka Nakua. I hope he's okay. But outside of him too, that receiver room really needs help. You grab a tight end. Okay, I guess they'll be running two tight end sets. Then Keegan Trost had a really good year at Missouri, but just like the projection at tackle, I don't love. And Warren McClendon had a pretty good run. So again, this is three backups so far, and then you don't have any other picks till the sixth round where you get a receiver. I like C.J. Daniels. I had a fourth round grade on him as well. You get him in the sixth, pretty good. And then I had a fifth round grade on Tim Keenan. So these are little 2 round steals. But not everyone, not everyone I have a fifth round grade on will go in the fifth. It's just the way it is. And you get Tim Keenan. I like him. Contributes on special teams. He blocked a punt in the Oklahoma playoff game. Good player, but just your first three picks are your impact picks, and they're all backups. I don't love that. I'm sorry, Rams fans. Whatever. My Miami Dolphins had a bunch of picks. This was a weird draft. I'm gonna go B plus. I trust me. There's no bias, especially when you take someone outside of my top 50 at pick 12. Caden Proctor was not. I knew they were going to take him. I had a feeling, but he was not in my top 50. I just didn't love his film. I think it's boomer. It's really boomer bust with him. I think if you hit, it's going to hit. This could be a generational tackle like Trent Williams level, but it has to hit. He's very young. Um, and for this team that you had signed Malik Willis, I think he's going to start year one, but that's why you got to really hone in on with him this offseason, make sure his weight's in check and everything. I didn't love the pick. And then they traded up a few spots for Chris Johnson. I loved Chris Johnson. He was my 34th overall player. Good value at 27. Instantly slide in and be the corner one. Second round, I didn't expect Jacob Rodriguez to be the pick or a linebacker to be the pick, but he's a stud. I got my linebacker 3 and 4 on this team. We'll see. Kyle Lewis was my linebacker 3. Jacob Rodriguez was my linebacker 4. So I think, taking him, you're bolstering the defense. Jeff Hafley loves linebackers and he loves safeties. Those are two things he loves. Didn't see many safeties go for this Dolphins team, but you know what? Jacob Rodriguez, good pick. Caleb Douglas, I'm sure a lot of people were shocked. I was included. When you sit back and think about it, it makes sense. The Giants traded up, snagged Malachi Fields right ahead of him, and that just means that Malachi Fields was the Dolphins were going X receiver with a certain prototype build at pick 75. And with Malachi Fields going off, they just went to their next rated guy. And sure, let's say the Dolphins brass had him rated in the 90s on their big board. That's not that bad. I had a fourth round grade on him, right under his teammate Reggie Virgil, but you get him in third. That's not bad. you needed that receiver, a 6'4", 4'4" runner with like inconsistent film, but when he's there, he's there. You know, this is just like that. Same thing. I thought the same thing with Chris Brazell, but I just had a slightly higher grade on Brazell. So Caleb Douglas, whatever, not that bad. Surprising. Then here, Will Kazmarek, that was a shocking one. I hate going blocking tight end. Dolphins did that with Hunter Long a few years ago. They did it with Durham Smythe a while back, and Durham Smythe actually was good for a while, but Hunter Long wasn't. You go Will Kazmarek, I guess, you know, like in the third, not great. I had a fifth round grade on him, and I just don't love drafting blocking tight ends. But then Chris Bell, great player, coming off injury, but Dolphins team isn't really in a win now situation, and I'm sure he'll be ready by like week 4. So Chris Bell is a great pick in the third. Trey Moore, undersized edge rusher that they played at linebacker at Texas, but he had like 14 sacks at UTSA one year. So the juice on him is insane. He's got really good spin move too. I really like that. And then Kyle Lewis, one of the steals of the draft. I had him as my 23rd overall player. I had Jermon McCoy at 19. So 4 spots later, and also in the 4th round, also low key the steal of the draft for Kyle Lewis. There you go, Michael Taff. Quinn Ewers, the literal best friend. Cool. They're on the same team. Michael Taff in the 5th round. Dolphins had decent luck last year getting Dante Trader in the 5th round. I just don't love starting 5th round safeties. Taff is a productive player though, good tackler. Just not prototypical size or athleticism. And then Kevin Coleman in the 5th. This is probably your slot receiver of the future. I love him. I love Malik Washington and what he's done for this team, but Coleman's just a better route runner. He's faster. I think he's stronger at the point of attack. He's just less crafty with the ball in his hands, and he played through some injury this year. Very productive receiver. I really like Kevin Coleman's pick. And then Seydou Traore. I had a 6th round grade on him. You get him at the end of the 5th. He also doesn't count, I think, towards a roster spot, and you can have him exempt on the practice squad as well because he's an NFL international player. He's from the UK. So good pick in the 5th. You also needed a receiving tight end after getting Kazmarek, who's pretty much just a lineman with hands. DJ Campbell in the 6th, very good value there as well. And then Max Llewellyn, I think he showed out in the Senior Bowl. I thought he'd go a little bit higher than this, and he doesn't. This might be a day 1 starting edge rusher for the Dolphins, and then they'll have Trey Moore drop down to edge rusher in certain packages. Who knows? But with how thin that edge rushing room is for the Dolphins, Llewellyn has a good chance of starting early. And I'm not talking about UDFAs here, but at the time I'm recording this video, the Dolphins signed Le'Veon Moss to an undrafted free agent contract, and Mason Riger out of Wisconsin. I think those 2 guys have a good shot at making the roster as well. So very good draft by the Dolphins, B+. People are fighting for their jobs in Minnesota right now. And what did they do in the draft? Well, not bad. I'm going to give it a B-. You go Caleb Banks. I didn't have him in my top 50. Injury concerns, play style concerns, play time concerns, but you get him at 18. I get it because of what he could be and the fact you have literally no D tackles on the roster. So you get him at 18 is a bit of a reach. It's not bad. Jake Golday as a linebacker. You know what? They're thin at linebacker right now. You know what? I kind of comped him to Blake Cashman. Once I saw the pick, I was like, don't they already have Blake Cashman? Yes, they do. So he's just Blake Cashman 2.0. I like the player. A little bit more athletic than Cashman, I'd say. Dominique Orange in the 3rd. There was a lot of hype. People thought he could go in the top 30 at the beginning of the season and then kind of just fell off. He's a nose tackle. He's a nose guard. He's a decent player, though. Big Citrus in Minnesota. I like it. I don't mind the pick. I like these next 2 picks better, though. Caleb Tiernan is a good swing tackle, but I think he could start at guard early on. He's giant. In open space, he's been very good at trapping and swinging out on screens or toss plays. I like the pick, especially with how they've struggled with tackle injuries in the past and the fact that Brian O'Neill is probably only spending 1 more year there. So good pick for them. And then Jacoby Thomas. A lot of people didn't have a high grade on Jacoby Thomas. I didn't either, but I like the fit. You know, I'm not going to always pretend that I know more than NFL clubs. I didn't have a high grade on him. But what he can do, his athleticism, his production, it's what they need at the safety position. They don't have any safeties. So they needed it. They went and picked it. Good for them. I would have preferred someone like Kamari Ramsey, but Jacoby Thomas is a good scheme fit and a good athlete. I don't love going fullback in the 5th, but for one of the few teams that still uses a fullback, Max Bredesen is the guy. Michigan bloodline stays strong there with JJ9 McCarthy. Bredesen's a good player. I think he'll play at least 30% of offensive snaps, which is more than you can say for most 5th-round picks, you know? So people hated on the pick, fullback, whatever. How many 5th-round picks play like 30% of snaps as a rookie? Not many, and Bredesen probably will. So good pick there. And then Charles Demings, probably their Steelers draft. Very good player, very long, athletic. solid player, but he just played at Stephen F. Austin, so whatever. But he was productive in the FCS playoff games, I believe it was. So good pick for them. He might even start pretty early on. He's like their cornerback forward. They signed James Pierre as well. Um, and then in the sixth, Damon Claiborne. Now I'll say again, I'm not grading UDFAs. A fourth round grade on one of the UDFAs they signed, Keyshawn Owens out of Florida International. Very good player. If they would have taken him here, might have even bumped up their grade. They go Damon Claiborne. I didn't mind him, but just not like his juice is just not enough juice. You know, he's not gonna break off long runs. He's small, got shorter legs, but shifty, good in the open field, and was productive at Wake Forest. So he's going to slide in pretty early on and be a productive running back there because right now it's just Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, who's not a bad 1-2 punch, but Aaron Jones is older. Jordan Mason's a power back, not an every down back. Damon Claiborne has a chance to make an impact early on. I think Gavin Gerhardt, another Cincinnati guy. They didn't have a great year pass protecting for Brendan Sorsby, but on the rollout, whatever, I think Gerhardt could drop his anchor. But again, why are we talking about a seventh round center? You don't want your backup lineman touching the field at any moment. This is just insurance, and I don't mind it. New England had a weird draft. I'm going to give it a C plus. I really liked Lomu. He was my second tackle off the board, pure tackle, and he goes at 28. Good. I don't love the fact they're taking tackle again. I know they'll need tackle, but I would have liked to see edge rusher first. But then they get Gabe Akis, who I didn't really like. You know, there's some very high highs on his film and some low lows. Such a weird one in the second round. I don't love the scheme fit either. I think he's a heavy-handed edge rusher, but they didn't like Keon White. This regime traded him, so whatever. Then in the third, they get someone really that I did like, Eli Raridon. Good hands. He's had some elite crossing routes, honestly. Elite catches on the slants and the crossing routes. That's pretty much his go-to. And he's big. He's like 6'6" or close to the number that I shall not name. And he's heavy and he's a great run blocker. This is a very good third round pick. They also love their two tight end sets down in New England. Karen Prunty, I didn't watch his film. He went to the Hula Bowl. That's the only place I saw him at. You go in the fifth. I guess he's super athletic. I really don't know. I won't speak about it, but the fact I don't, he was one of like four players that I didn't watch or like really didn't hear of anything up until they got drafted. So I don't love the pick. Demetrius Crownover, I didn't love the athleticism on him, but you get him in the sixth, and I think he could have gone way higher, so that's not bad at all. Now Diabizor is going to be an early special teams contributor. I really liked him. I had a fourth round grade on him. I just didn't love him as much as his teammate Caleb Elarms Orr. I don't mind the pick. Seventh, you grab Baron Morton. I guess productive player. He just doesn't have like that high level arm, but he could be, you know, like that. He could be a stashed backup. I don't mind the pick. It's the seventh round. Jam Miller, not a good player. I'm surprised he got drafted. There's a lot better running backs that went undrafted. Like I said, Le'Veon Moss, Keyshawn Owens, just to name a few. Jam Miller, cool. And then Quintavious Hutchins, I mean, not productive. Long, but not productive. And then not athletic. He tested pretty poorly. So, sure. I mean, we're in the seventh round. Take the Boston College kid. You're in Boston. Cool. Just not a great draft overall. Some decent players that I liked, and then the rest was just weird. Watch out for the Saints this year. Honestly, they have a lot going for them right now. I'm going to give this draft a B plus. I don't love Jordan Tyson. I had a second round grade on him, but you get him at pick 8. If he's healthy, it might pay off. They needed a receiver, so it's good. They also need a D tackle. You grab Kristen Miller in the second. I think he can contribute. You grab Oscar Delp in the third. They needed a tight end. That's really three. You're attacking your needs with your first three picks. Though I don't love the first player, I mean, you needed him, and he's not that bad. He's not bad or anything, so it's very good. Grab Jeremiah Wright. Not a great guard, but you need offensive line, and the fourth, that's where you grab it. And then you grab one of my top 50 players in the fourth as well. Bryce Lance, love him. Not the best route runner, but you know who's very good and not the best route runner out of the same school? Christian Watson. Love Christian Watson. Great player. He's productive for the Packers. Coming off a torn ACL, he just like dominated the league. So Bryce Lance in the fourth, elite pick. Now you have two rookie receivers that are ready to play, and you can let one sit on the bench while you develop. And then if any injuries happen with Chris Olave or Jordan Tyson, which they have in the past, you have Bryce Lance ready to step in. And then another athletic, they really like their athletes. Athletic phenom Lorenzo Styles Jr., the brother of Sonny Styles, another Ohio State kid. Just very good player in the fifth. Special teams early on, he'll be their gunner. And worst case, you know, if there's an injured safety, you throw him in there and he's good. Marion Brown, another athlete. This one, he's going to be more their kick returner if he's able to crack the roster. I think he will because they don't really have any receivers. So kick returner, whatever. Worst case, some packages. You could put him in the slot. And then TJ Hall. I think TJ Hall's a decent player. I had a 7th round grade on him. You grab him in the 7th. It's good. You need some corner depth as usual. I think they could have gone corner earlier instead of tripling up on receivers, but you just go as your board follows, and you're in the 7th round. You grab someone who I think can provide value early on, especially on special teams. Good draft. I'm gonna give the Giants draft an A. I didn't love the start with Arvell Reese. I think the draft went weird. I, the Jets, I'll speak about the Jets, but they should have gone Arvell Reese. His floor is way higher than anyone else in this draft because he's a great run stopping linebacker with athleticism, which is useful in coverage. So you grab Arvell Reese at 5. I don't love the fact that they have all these edge rushers and he might play linebacker, but he's a good player. And then you grab Francis Maunoa. He's a very good player. They needed tackle. He could play guard right away or tackle, and you love that at 10. Colton Hood probably could have gone in the 1st round. Thought he should have gone in the 1st round, and then you grab him here in the 2nd. Very good player. Malachi Fields, field stretcher, big receiver, contested catches, kind of what you're missing. You're also missing like good receivers in New York outside of Malik Neighbors. But Malachi Fields, good player in the 3rd round. They don't have any picks until the 6th, and then you get Bobby Jameson Travis. He's just a monster in the trenches. I don't mind that in the 6th round. Run stopping sets worst case. J.C. Davis, I think, could have gone earlier. He had an up and down year. His film was also very up and down. I had a 5th round grade on him, and then you get him in the 6th. Decent potential swing tackle, potential guard, in a sticky situation. And then Jack Kelly, I think he could have gone earlier. Underrated player. You get him in the 6th, early special teams contributor, another linebacker. The Harbaugh brothers love their linebackers. So very good draft. A grade, like I said, Reese, he should have gone at 2. We'll talk about the Jets next. The Jets get a B. I see a lot of people glazing this Jets draft. It's good, but that's what happens when you have a lot of high picks. It's tough to miss based on pre-draft knowledge. Obviously, you can miss based on whatever happens in the league. But you get David Bailey at 2. I liked him. He was in my top 10 players, but he just wasn't as high as Arvell Reese. And you get a pure pass rusher who struggles at stopping the run. If you want someone, just go get the better player in Ruben Bain, or just get the more all-around player in Arvell Reese. You already have someone like that in Will McDonald, who's kind of not great. And you try that again at pick 2? No, I don't like that pick at all. Kenyon Sadiq, I like. I don't love. I had a 2nd round grade on him. Get him at pick 16, whatever. I only had 19 players graded in the 1st round, like a lot of teams do. But you get Kenyon Sadiq at 16, and you just drafted Mason Taylor. A lot of 2 tight end sets, or you're playing him in the slot. But then you get a slot / Z receiver, I guess, in Omar Cooper. I liked Omar Cooper. That's their best pick of the draft, but I just don't get what they did with these first 3 picks outside of Cooper. You get edge, which you needed, but you get the worst one on the board. You go tight end, which you didn't need, when you could have gone, D tackle. Could have gone corner earlier. Could have gone safety. Could have gone O-line, just gotten one of the better O-lines in the league. They needed a guard. I just didn't love that. Then you get Pons. I like Pons. A very good player, but when you're small, it's going to be tough. And they're lucky they're in a division right now with not a lot of good tall receivers. But look at the Dolphins just drafted 6'4" Caleb Douglas, 6'2" Chris Bell, and Bell gave that Miami Hurricanes defense fits. And I think that my Miami Hurricanes had way better corners and safeties than Indiana did. Higher grade on Keontae Scott than Pons, at a higher grade on Jacoby Thomas than Lewis Moore. So it's just like, I don't get it. I don't love the fit. Darrell Jackson Jr., yeah, they need a D tackle. You get a nice pass rushing D tackle who's raw. A lot of raw athletic ability there and decent size. You trade up for Cade Klubnik. I had a 3rd round grade on Cade Klubnik, but he was my QB3 overall after Mendoza and Simpson. Good for them. He might not play this year. He might never play because they have 3 1st-rounders next year, and that's surely going to be a QB. But what's the worst that can happen in the 4th round with this QB? Geno Smith sucks. Geno Smith unfortunately goes down with injury. Klubnik goes in and just balls out. Low risk, very high reward. I love that for the Jets. Then you get Inez Cooper out of Miami. Not a great player. Thought he would go undrafted, but you snag him again. Backup guard. Can't complain because you just hope they never touch the field. BJ Payne, pretty decent steal here in the 7th round. I mean, I thought he'd go earlier. When I saw he was still on the board, I was shocked. But good player in the 7th round, early special teams contributor, and with that thin safety room, I think he has a chance to get on the field early. But yeah, I just didn't love it. Didn't love their top 2 picks, and then I didn't love their 2nd-rounder, which is where you get the bulk of your draft. Eagles are going to get a B-. I like the players they drafted. I just don't love the philosophy they came in with. They're just planning kind of for the future. and they do have a Super Bowl window now. I think I would attack that while I could. Makai Lemon's great. The fact you were able to jump the Steelers and snag him, hilarious. Go watch that video if you haven't, or go look at the story if you haven't. Good for them. Makai Lemon's a great player. I thought the Dolphins could have gone him early on. I think he's better than Jordan Tyson. Good player. Eli Stowers in the second, also a good player. I just don't love taking a tight end, uh, especially you're just kind of like he's kind of like a carbon copy of the idea that they have in their head of Dallas Goedert, who's kind of aging. But we all know that's his last year. We also know they're trading AJ Brown, so now you're going starting receiver, backup tight end, and then backup tackle. Again, you're just planning for the future. I get it, but Lane Johnson's still there, and this guy's very tall, but I don't know if he's athletic enough to be the replacement Lane Johnson for long term. I like Markel Bell though. You grab Cole Payton. They always take their flyers on QBs. It didn't work out with Kyle McCord. It kind of worked out with Tanner McKee. We'll see with Cole Payton in the fifth. I don't mind that. Now we're in the fifth, so it's not the end of the world. Micah Morris in the sixth. I don't mind that. Very good value there, and it's a backup guard. And then triple seventh round picks. I really like the Keyshawn James newbie one. I think Uar Bernard can't play NFL football, but it's a great story, and I wish he can do great stuff. I hope the best for him. He's a super freak athlete in the end. So worst case, just honestly put him at like special teams, and it's decent. Plus international pathway player. He's from Nigeria, so roster exempt, practice squad exempt. Cole Wisniewski, kind of an unsung hero of that Texas Tech defense, and he had a pretty good Shrine Bowl session, so I don't mind it. Just not great planning for the future when you have a Super Bowl window. Steelers unfortunately get a C plus from me. They were trying to, and I'm gonna obviously incorporate this into it. They were trying to take Makai Lemon at pick 21, and then the Eagles just traded up and got him. So then they had to slide to the next player on their board, Maxi Anachor. They already have a raw offensive line, and now you're going offensive line for like the third out of the last four drafts in the first round because they went Troy Fautanu, they went Broderick Jones. It's just not really working out for them, and they keep going O line. And he's very raw. His potential's through the roof. He's only been playing football for like 4 years. I just don't love the pick. I don't love the fact that you need a receiver more, and you get jumped by the Eagles, whatever. Especially when you're hosting the draft, that's just like embarrassing. Jeremy Bernard in the second, I thought they could have gone Jeremy Bernard in the first for a while, but Jeremy Bernard's stock kind of dropped a little bit. I entered the year with a fourth round grade on Jeremy Bernard, and I boosted it to a second round grade. He had a very decent year. Helped Ty Simpson kind of bloom right bright and early until that like sickness slash injury he dealt with. Ty Simpson, that is. So Jeremy Bernard, decent pick in the second round. Drew Aller, I like the pick. He was my QB5, third round. Why not? People were saying, oh, Will Howard, Will Howard. Drew Aller's way better than Will Howard. I don't know, just because he won the national championship with that squad around him. I'm not saying Will Howard's useless, but it was never meant to be a sixth round pick. They're still getting Rodgers this year. I'm pretty much guaranteeing that. But worst case, Drew Aller has way higher potential than Will Howard. He's younger. He's better. So why not? Dylan Everett. I think there were better corners on the board, specifically McCoy, who went later on the next day, technically, but in the fourth round. Everett's not bad, though, just inconsistent film. Then Jennings Dunker. I had a top 50 grade on Jennings Dunker, and he goes in the third. That's a good offensive line pick, and that's something that you can use. Tackle guard flexibility, very powerful player, going to help in the run game. Caden Wheatgen, I didn't love in the fourth. He impressed. He was shockingly good at the Shrine Bowl practices, and he never got to show his receiver talent at Iowa, but just and the fourth is interesting because he's their Calvin Austin replacement. I get it. Good kick returner. He'll be impactful on kick returns. He might score like 3 special teams touchdowns this year, which is more than like a lot of fourth rounders will do. But I think there's just better receivers if you're going for that. If you're going pure special teams, cool. Good pick. Riley Nowakowski, another blocking tight end, kind of a fullback. They lost the brother of Cameron Hayward, Connor Hayward, to the Raiders, and that was their fullback blocking tight end. Replaced him in the fifth with Nowakowski, who won a national championship and was kind of integral to that team, honestly, especially that run game. So very good. You get Gabe Rubio, another Hula Bowl guy. Again, I watched Notre Dame's defense, but I didn't really notice him. So, whatever. I watched the Hula Bowl, and he was decent. So, I get it. In the sixth is not bad. And the Robert Spears Jennings is good value in the seventh. Again, I just don't love what they did with the first pick and the receiver thing and whatever. I think they also could have gone corner earlier, but if you're going to go corner, you also go with a better player. It's not bad, though. I feel like I'm being really negative with these decent drafts that are they're going to have impact players, but when there's better drafts out there, you just kind of got to level it. Whatever. I'm yapping. Decent one. First pick in the second round. I expected Cash Howell, and there was rumors of Cash Howell because they needed edge. So I'm like, here we go. Cash Howell, boom. DeJon Stribling. I had a fourth round grade on DeJon Stribling, and I was high on him. I like kind of spoke about him, graded on him earlier in the process than a lot of people. People realized he was good. Cool. Yo, in the second round, pick 33, almost a first round pick, pretty much your first round pick because you traded out. No, no. Especially after signing Mike Evans, they need a receiver, but just I don't know. I don't get it. Romello Height, top 50 player for me in the third. Cool. Oh, I didn't even grade this draft, by the way. I'm gonna give it a C. Romello Height in the third. Cool. Top 50 player. I liked him for a top 50 player for me. I liked him. Good. Yeah, a bit of an older prospect, but he was a better overall edge rusher than David Bailey, honestly, but just a worse pass rusher, older, yada yada. And good value in the third round. The Niners have a classic third round pick in Kalen Black, though. They always draft these like weird players. It worked out with Upton Stout last year, but a few years ago it was Tyrion Davis Price, who's like in the UFL, I think. Weird. Kalen Black, I liked him, I liked him. I really thought he could go in the fifth round, sixth round. That third round's really, really weird. Powerful runner there, and he was good for Indiana this year. Just older prospect as well. I didn't expect this. I don't love it. Grayson Halton, and they're stacking up on defensive tackles. It's just like he's a good player, but I feel like it's a wasted pick. You have C.J. West, Alfred Collins, you traded for Osa Digizua, and now Grayson Halton. There's probably someone else I'm forgetting too. I would have liked to see them go O-line. They didn't really go O-line until Carver Willis, who's cool. I had a fifth round grade on him. You get him in the fourth. Not bad. Their steal of the draft, though, Ephesians Prysock. I had a second round grade on Ephesians Prysock. Very good player. Get him in the fourth. Tall, good for them getting something out of this draft. And then Jalen Duggar, I think, is a decent player. Not the greatest range, but he was good in the Shrine Bowl practices, stood out a little bit. And I think in the fifth round, that's your special teamer. And then Enrique Cruz wasn't great this year, not bad last year. You get him in the fifth. I thought this priority UDFA guy, again, just not a good draft. Whatever. I feel bad for the Niners, but I really do like the Romello Height and Ephesians Prysock pick. I'm going to give the Seahawks draft here a B. Not bad. I really did think they'd go running back round one. Jadarian Price, the backup to Jeremiah Love. You just don't really see this, but I think it could pay out. They love rotating both running backs, and now with Zach Charbonnet injured, you get Price, who's going to slide in early. That's a fantasy pick and a half right there. And then you get Bud Clark, who had a really impressive Senior Bowl. Wow, he was sticky in man coverage for a safety, and he's had ball production and production in general for TCU for the last few years. Very good. Julian Neal, tall corner. A lot of people might just remember him for getting his dunked on by Ted Hurst at the Senior Bowl, but no, he's actually a very good player. I had a third round grade on him. He goes in the third. It's a position of need because they kind of have a lot of rotation there in the cornerback room. I like that. Yeah, Bo Stevens in the fifth. I think that's decent. Backup guard again, but with potential injuries and how bad Anthony Bradford could be at sometimes. Bo Stevens not bad. Manuel Henderson. I like his athleticism. I like how much of a deep threat he is. Kind of reminds me of Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who they signed and then cut last year, which is funny. But in the sixth round, not bad. Could be a special teamer. That's the Tom Brady pick right there, pick 199. So watch out for him. Andre Fuller, I think, is an impressive player, honestly. Toledo in the seventh round, I think that's very good value. Sneaky early player like special teams, and then preseason he's going to shine at corner, I believe. Devin Eastern, nose tackle out of Minnesota. Not much to say about him. He's just a space eater if he even gets on the field. And then Michael Dansby, special teamer. Overall, decent draft. I just don't love, as much as I said the running back pick was good, I don't love a running back. And the way that they just attacked this after winning the Super Bowl, I think they could have went edge. I also think that they could have gone receiver, but not a bad draft by any means necessary. I'm gonna have to give this Bucks draft an A plus. This was a fantastic draft. They get my number one rated player in Ruben Bain at pick 15 at a position of need. They were going to go edge first round anyways. I thought it could have been Messidor. I thought it could have been Cash Howell, maybe a trade down for like linebacker CJ Allen. They get my first overall player at 15. Beautiful. And bro, that guy's going to wreck the league. He's mad that he fell to 15, and I'm mad for him too. I'm mad my Dolphins passed on him. Second round, you get a raw young linebacker in Josiah Trotter. That guy can fly, honestly. He's got very good instincts. You get him in the second round, and that's one of your thinnest positions as well. Beautiful. And then Ted Hurst, who I thought, the Dolphins could have also went. He's one of those ex stretch the field tall players. Put his name out there at the Senior Bowl. Had a very good year at Georgia State. In the third round, that's great. And then you get another top 50 player in the fourth round in Keontae Scott. Man, I know they have Jacob Parrish there, but dude, Keontae Scott's a dog. I don't know if he's gonna play early on. He's an older prospect, but a, that guy's juiced up in the slot. How did he fall to the fourth? I'll be so mad if they don't start him. I'll knock this down to a B grade if they don't start him or play him early on. And then Capehart, man, Capehart was good. I thought he could have declared in the last draft. He didn't. He's here, and they get him in the fifth. And then they get a third round guard for me, Billy Shrouth in the fifth. Oh man, what a great draft. Bauer Sharp, early special teamer, backup tight end. They kind of like those players, but what if like with not many picks, I guess, so they didn't have like an extra third or anything. This is a fantastic draft. Value across the board at positions of need. This is how you draft. Congrats to the Bucks and their GM Jason Light. Uh, Dude, what a great draft from them. If you're a Bucks fan, be excited. As long as Baker could stay healthy and keep it together, and then Todd Bowles doesn't choke, this is just a beautiful draft. And even if it doesn't work out this year, that you have an entire rookie contract with all these fellows, I mean, they're just this is great. We go from an A plus down to a C plus. I don't mind it. The Titans are a good team, but Carnell Tate at 4, not they needed a receiver, but I think they really wanted Jeremiah Love, and they didn't find any trade down partners like worthwhile. So you go ahead, you grab Carnell Tate, cool at 4, not bad. Then you trade up in the first round for Keldrick Falk. This was the range I had him in, and you get a fifth year option on edge rusher, very smart. Anthony Hill in the second. You know what? I thought he was going to fall, but the fact he got taken in the second round, they don't have any linebackers outside of Cedric Gray, who's not great in coverage. Good to get Anthony Hill, throw him in that rotation, good blitzer. Then you don't have any picks until the fifth round. When you're as bad as the Titans were, the fact you have pick 4, you need more impact players. So right now you get 3 starters, which is cool, but none of them were outside of Carnell Tate being my receiver 1. Like none of them are linebacker 1 for me or anything. So this was just a tough draft to not have that many picks. You get Carmona. He'll be a guard. He was decent at guard this year. Just couldn't. He had like it felt like he was slipping a lot at guard. Just he played alongside a pretty bad center at Arkansas. So whatever. Carmona also has center flexibility. You get Nick Singleton. Katron Allen's better, and you grab Nick Singleton. Don't love that. Jackie Marshall was pretty impressive in the All Star circuit this year. I don't mind him in the sixth. Pat Coogan is their steal of the draft. Very good player. That could be their center of the future. They don't really have one after releasing Lloyd Cushenberry. And then Jared Kanek out of Oklahoma, former linebacker turned tight end, pure special teams guy. I doubt he'd get on the field. And I really think they did need to grab a tight end, but they just didn't have the draft capital to do it. So C plus, unfortunately, for the Titans. For the Commanders, they didn't have a lot of picks. No second rounder, trading it to the Texans for Laremy Tunsil last year. I'm going to go A minus. This is a pretty good draft. They were lucky Sonny Styles landed in their lap. I know they wanted Mansour Delane. That's the reason the Chiefs traded up. But you grab Sonny Styles, great player. My linebacker 1, technically off-ball linebacker 1. So good. At 7, no second round pick. Third round, Antonio Williams. They needed receiver, even though they might get Brandon Ayuk. Williams could play inside. He could play outside. He's got decent size. He could break tackles, strong hands, just inconsistent at Clemson at times. I thought he would go back to school and raise his stock. I think he could have raised it to second round level, but you get taken at the top of the third. Team saw what I saw on him. That's very good. Joshua Josephs, there's like weird off-field stuff with all these Tennessee edge rushers apparently, but you get him in the fifth, fantastic value. And then you get the better Penn State running back in the sixth. I think you know what? I know they really wanted a running back. As much as they love Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt down there, I think Katron Allen can be that guy. He's a very good player. And sixth round, I mean, obviously you don't expect much, but they took Krosky Merritt last year late as well. So I'm excited for Katron Allen in Washington. Then you take Matt Gulbin, pretty inconsistent at Michigan State, but he had a good year this year compared to a bad year 2 years ago. So sixth round again. Don't want your backup center on the field, but he might play early on. But they lost Tyler Biodosh to the Chargers, so he might play early. And then you get Athan Kaliakmanis. He was my QB10 this year. Again, nothing impressive, but he had a very good year at Rutgers. His time at Minnesota was pretty bad. That's why he's kind of like a meme. But you get him in the seventh round. I don't mind it. Like compete in that QB room. They were throwing out Josh Johnson there last year after Jaden Daniels got injured. It's not worth it. keep someone like Kalik Manis around. He might be able to play a game manager role if ever there were more injuries to Mariota and Jane Daniels. But you know what? That's it. That is every single team. I'm sure you probably just skipped around if you're watching this. Maybe you went to check out your team. If you want to get mad at me, go ahead, man. I don't mind. These are my grades. I'll probably do some film breakdown on a lot of these draft picks when I find the time. But that's it. You know, this is a passion. This is fun. Um, don't be scared to do this yourself if you're as big as a fan as I am. And if you like this video, drop a like, subscribe. Thank you for watching this. No matter how many minutes you watched of it, I appreciate you, and I'll catch you on the next one.